Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. We are so glad that you are here for today's research-informed defensive lesson. Every day at Active Self-Protection, we post a real-life use of force caught on camera so that your training and your practice can be more informed. In fact, we're the only channel in the world coming at self-defense encounters from a research-informed perspective. I am your host, John Correa.
And I'm use of force expert, Stephanie Widener.
This is not a paid endorsement, but I am a brand ambassador for Heckler and Koch USA. HK firearms are incredibly reliable, incredibly accurate, great firearms for defensive carry. From the new VP9A1 to the CC9 to the P30 that I have carried every day for the last 8 years, they are incredible firearms for defensive use. You carry a gun just in case. Shouldn't it be an HK just in case? What you see here, I've sped this up for the sake of time. This is a DoorDash delivery driver coming up to the neighbor's house in kind of a rural area in a little town of Chester, New York. And his phone has died, and so he doesn't know exactly where to go. He's got an address, so he asks this neighbor for help. The neighbor says, "I can't help you." So he goes over to another neighbor and asks for help again. That guy tells him to get off his property. He's an employee of the city and a federal firearms licensee. He's gonna come outside. We have audio. Let's listen into what happens.
Go! Go!
With either the second or the third shot, this man hit that DoorDash driver who immigrated to the US from another place at some point. He hit him, thankfully, not critically injuring him. That guy ended up driving home because his phone wasn't working, so he drove 12 miles away and then checked himself into the hospital. Go read the news stories and you can listen to the city council at first try to justify this, and then they saw this Ring doorbell camera. This guy has been charged with multiple felonies, including second-degree assault in New York, which is the equivalent of aggravated assault. We're going to talk about in the lessons. He's in trouble. So we go into this in a lot more depth on the Active Self-Protection Extra channel. But Stephanie, as a use of force expert and an expert witness, do most people understand the law of self-defense well?
No, no. And it's a problem. Gets people jammed up all the time. So that's why it's so important to us to teach lessons like that on our other channel, Active Self-Protection Extra, where we can go in depth into those kinds of lessons.
Yeah, so hey, make sure you go over there too. We're gonna give you a good dose of it here, but the format's pretty small. So over there, much deeper dive. So here in the beginning, Steph, you feel bad for this guy. He's an immigrant. His English isn't perfect. Go watch the original on this. You can hear his English is okay, but not great. And I get it, you don't want to open your door to this guy. Like, this is a perfect use case for a doorbell camera that you can say, "Hey, do you need me to call someone? I will give me the address you're supposed to be going to, and I can tell you which way to go to get there." I don't think opening the door is smart, and I do think depending on your risk profile, it might have been okay to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you, please leave."
Yeah, I think either of those are good answers. You can try to help through the doorbell camera, and it's okay to just say, "I'm not going to," I'm not able to help, or not audibly answer. Whatever you choose there, we're not obligated to help our fellow man in any way. And I think it's reasonable to at least consider that this could be some type of ruse to get you to open the door if you hadn't ordered DoorDash. So I think that's a reasonable assumption to take caution and care.
And listen, you might feel, "Hey man, I have a spiritual moral obligation to do that." That's fine. Just do so in safe manners, okay? This would be a great case maybe for a storm door, a security screen door. You could open the door and talk through it, or the doorbell camera does the same thing. So utilize that technology to your benefit. Now, the other guy here, we're going to talk from here. This is stupid on every level because he told him the same thing, "Get off my property." And the guy did. He went out and sat in his car. And in response to that, he sat in his car because his phone's not working. And in response to that, you can see our guy puts on some kind of a pack here, which I'm just going to guess he's a federal firearms licensee. You can see I'd bet a bunch of money that's got like some medical equipment, like a tourniquet on it, probably 2 reloads for his gun and a whole bunch of other kung fu fighting stuff. And he decides to go out on his front lawn, which, Steph, I just think is the dumbest thing you could possibly do in this kind of scenario.
From multiple different perspectives, if this was a ruse and they were trying to draw him out, get him to open the door, well, that's exactly what he did. And I guess maybe he felt confident because he had his gun, but without knowing the situation on the other side, is this guy alone? Does he have a bunch of friends in the bushes? This is just tactically not smart if you see this as a risk, which I think we can assume he saw some sort of risk here, or at least suspected that there might be an issue. So why not stay inside? He has the same opportunity to interact through the Ring doorbell camera or to not interact. And the guy did follow his orders and was leaving. So why are we coming out of our safe place that we're able to defend and help, or call in extra help? You can call the authorities if you don't feel like this guy is leaving or whatever. But instead he chose to go out and kind of confront him.
I just can't reiterate enough what Stephanie said there. Listen, inside your home, you have every advantage. You have the advantage tactically. You know the layout. If God forbid they come in, they have to come in through designated entry points. You have all the advantages. You're armed with a firearm. If they come in, you've got castle doctrine legally to protect you, right? That you get presumptions of reasonableness there. Man, you step out your front door and you start losing all that. You lose the tactical advantage because they've got control of the situation outside. You don't know how many people are out there. If this is a ruse, you are stepping right into it. And yes, you have a gun, but that does not make you bulletproof. And from a legal perspective, you are setting yourself up for trouble because, again, you are pursuing a conflict. You're initiating a confrontation when you didn't have to initiate. And if you're the initiator, the aggressor, the instigator of a conflict, you could face legal trouble. So this is just stupid. Use the Ring doorbell. Even if you call the cops, say, hey man, this guy, I think there's a ruse here. I need cops here right away because I don't want to get in a gunfight with this guy and I'm armed. They'll show up and then figure everything out. And instead, this guy's just super aggressive. And he goes out with the gun in hand. Okay, bad idea. If you think it's bad enough you need a gun in hand, stay in the house. And then once he gets out there, the guy's sitting in his car and he's just going to rip around off into the grass. This is, just completely pointed away from him. In many places in Arizona, this would be, if you're inside city limits, a reckless or negligent discharge of a firearm inside city limits, what we call Shannon's Law. That's a class 6 felony in Arizona all by itself. Even if you're not, it's just the stupidest idea known to man and could get you charged with felonies.
And the legality of it aside, he's not looking where he is pointing. We have no idea where this round is going. So not only is it not effective in defending in quotes himself, is putting other potentially innocent people at risk. Now, maybe he's well aware that there isn't another house within a mile or there's a nice backstop over there or something. Possibly. I guess I'm not getting the impression that this guy is very thoughtful about this sort of thing. So my guess is that it's not, and we're just seeing this huge buildup of really bad, besides things that are starting to be illegal now, before it was just kind of optics issues, this aggressive going out, wearing the belt. Even for gun people, we're kind of rolling our eyes a little bit. That's a pretty aggressive look. And now we're firing off rounds kind of willy-nilly into a neighborhood. It's getting worse for our guy here from a lot of different perspectives.
And I don't know where there are neighbors, right? This is a small town. This could be very rural. Okay, but it's still stupid on every level. Don't do this, right? My home defense gun of choice is not a pistol, but pistol, rifle, shotgun, I don't care. There's nowhere in these great United States that this shot is justifiable, okay? If you look, it looks like the headlights of the other car, there's what looks like a little post on this side of those headlights, which my guess is, and I'm guessing here, okay, this is speculation, is his post office box. So he's on the other side of that post office box, which means he's probably off the guy's property. And so the guy's on the edge just outside of your property and you're going to rip off a warning shot on what? Where's the fear of death or great bodily injury that would justify shooting a firearm at him? I don't see it here. And guess what? The detectives get to see this. And you might go, well, it's my stuff. They won't get to see it. Second they see that camera outside your house, they're going to subpoena those videos. And these are the kinds of videos, Steph, that we see all the time that get people sent to prison.
Yeah, and even if the guy was still on his property, I don't see that making any big change in any of this. Certainly, it looks from here as an observer that he's retreating, regardless of where he is on that property line. He's certainly retreating, and I don't think, regardless of his location in space, that we can make an argument for this shot at all.
There it is, right? So remember, you're going to be tasked from a legal perspective to act in reasonable ways, right? Like, was this a reasonable thing? This guy's a federal firearms licensee. He should know this is completely unreasonable. There's probably not a jury in the land that's going to side with him on this. Certainly not a district attorney, so he's going to go spend a couple $100,000 trying to justify his behavior if that's the shot that he stops at. But he doesn't stop there. Now the guy he kind of, backs up a little bit, and then as he turns kind of broadside and is backing up and trying to get away, our guy, and you can see the car is completely sideways to him. Now he raises the gun up at the car and fires around at the car. And I think a lot of people ask Stephanie, why would you get charged with, like, in New York, it's, assault in the second degree rather than aggravated assault, rather than attempted murder here. And we say all the time that requires intent, right? So you have to say, yes, I meant to want to kill him. I wanted to kill him here. And so that intent for attempted murder can be difficult to prove if he doesn't admit that. But the sentence is still the same. This is an aggravated assault. What imminent risk of death or great bodily injury can this guy say, especially in that he's never seen a weapon, the guy hasn't made any threats at him, and he's broadside to him and not driving at him?
Yeah, I think that what a lot of people don't realize is aggravated assault is actually a really, really serious charge. It is really right up there with, it's kind of like failed murder, really, but you don't have to deal with the mindset and intent issues because it is really difficult to prove what someone was thinking. And that's what's required for attempted murder. You have to prove what they were thinking and what their intent was. And that's tough. So sometimes it's easier to just go with a different charge. But yeah, I'm sure that this guy somehow has this justified in his own head and feels like this is reasonable and he's kind of the hero in his own story, like we all are. The challenge is that reasonableness, like you were saying, John, is part of all self-defense law. Whatever you're doing has to be reasonable, and the jury is actually who gets to decide what is reasonable. You may think it's reasonable in the moment, but the jury is the final arbiter. So we have to be, I think, a lot more cautious than most people. I think most people feel like they can, take a quick read of their self-defense laws and decide they know exactly what that means. But in reality, it is the jury that decides what the law means, and you only kind of get to find out if you were in the lines after the fact. And so I think that should make us all a little more cautious. And certainly in a case like this where there is no threat that I can surely see, this is just bad call after bad call on every level.
Now, did you look what he just did right here? Is that he waited until that guy pulled and is pulling away from him. He's turned all the way away, and now we're looking at his taillights. As he's pulling out, the guy fires a third round at the back of his retreating vehicle. Friends, he is going to get to eat bologna sandwiches on the government's dime for years for this. I cannot see a district attorney giving this guy any kind of flexibility here. And so I don't care how you try to spin this. This guy's going to prison. This is not a good use of defensive firearm. And so listen, if you're going to own firearms, I'm all about it. I'm 100% about it. And I am a Second Amendment absolutist. Heck, man, I joke that people should be able to order an M249 over Amazon Prime for same-day delivery, for goodness sakes, if you're not a prohibited possessor. But you must use the firearm as a tool of last resort to save your life and nothing else. When you use it like this, you run afoul of the law. There is nothing good, sane, sober, moral, or prudent about this. And Stephanie, when this gets played to the jury, there's no way that they're going to come back and say that this was justified conduct.
No, I mean, I can even imagine watching this and then having to report back to the lawyer as kind of a quick expert witness consultation. There's nothing here. There's nothing here that I can work with, take any possible deal that you can get, because there's literal zero justification I can find here, zero argument that I can make. This is just, from the video evidence at least, just an egregious shooting, and he's going to deserve what he gets.
I've actually had a case working as an expert witness that the prosecution found some additional video evidence, disclosed it to the defense. Defense attorney sent it to me. I'd already looked over a whole bunch else, and we had a very strong self-defense case in that particular case. He sent me this additional video and he's like, what do you think, John? And I was like, dude, I think we're in trouble. I think that changes the tenor of everything, that based on what we had before, we had a pretty strong case, and now you just try to argue for some mercy is the best you can do at this point, because the jury's not gonna like that at all because it doesn't show what you thought it showed. And so, hey, guess what? This guy is going up the river. Can't tell you enough. Act in good, sane, sober, moral, and prudent ways, and you'll never worry about acting in legal ways. The jury's going to require you to do reasonable thing. If you're going to be a firearms owner, you're going to use firearms for self-defense, I am 100% behind you. I applaud you. That's great. You must only use them as a tool of last resort to protect your life. You can only use a firearm in defense if you reasonably believe that you are at risk, or somebody you love or another person is at risk of death or great bodily injury. If you use them when you want to scare somebody, when you want them to leave your property, if you're doing things like this, as a federal firearms licensee, he should absolutely know better than this, but being an FFL doesn't mean that you know the law of actual self-defense. You must know better than this, because if you do this, you're going to spend a long time in Sing Sing on this one, okay? And trust me, life in prison ain't no good. Do better than this and cover your ass.